So I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I'd like to greet my brothers and sisters in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the ancient tongue of Arabic of Assalamu alaikum. Once again, brothers and sisters, how are we? Fine. Praise be to all. If you could give it up for Brother Alvin Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, it's not easy coming to the front, speaking to our people. Nevertheless, by the grace of Allah, somebody has got to do it.
Yes, sir.
And we are in the vanguard position for doing such. As Brother Alvin said, we are the theme for this week, and I think next week and the following week, for about 3 weeks, we're going to be doing Message to the Black Man. And the question is, why message to the black man? Why not message to everyone? Well, let's look at it. The white man don't need a message. He's running things. The Chinese man don't need a message. He's about to take over everything if we're not careful. The Indian man, praises are due to Allah. The Indian man, he don't need a message, because he's got an economic message right now that is running things in this country. So that leaves the black man. There's a message for the black man. And when we say message for the black man, it's also a message for the black woman. However, we as men cannot go and say anything to our women, because if it wasn't for most of our sisters during slavery, we all would have been dead. So one way or the other, praises are due to Allah, one way or the other, the sisters, by a spiritual awakening, use science to get us here. Now that we are here as men, we now need to get ourselves together to make a better place for our women.
That's right.
The women are looking for real men.
Yes.
Not just men with muscles that they can see. They need some muscles in their head.
Yes.
Putting something together of substance so they can have something to go and work with.
Yes.
Case in point, every nation has got an army.
Come on now.
Every civilized people has got an army.
Come on, brother.
An army is there to serve and protect, just like the police. It's two different training. The police are there to necessarily to come door to door and speak to you and what. Army don't come with that kind of forte of speaking to you door to door. Army lock things down where police are having trouble. However, the army that we are building is for love of our people. We are going to be speaking to our people. We have got a flyer, and it says, your nation needs you. Your nation needs you. Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. Because we have got a lot of work to do. We have got a lot of work to do in the sense we have got an economic program that we need to put together. We need to have mechanics. We need to have everything that a civilized world has got. We need it. So it's down on your shoulder. Whatsoever you have got from the white man's world, we are going to need it. Apart from the crime and the rest of it, we don't need that. We know all about that already. That's why we are here in the first place. However, what we've got for our children. Morgan Heritage has got a song, and at the end of the song, he says, where is the black man paradise? Where is our paradise? Because once upon a time, we used to boast and say Caribbean and Africa. No, sir. When you go there, you meet the same man that you meet in this country running things, even self more in our country. Well, I don't know for anyone. I know it hurt the hell out of me when I go and see how they are rolling, and you're still looking and you say, boy, slavery is in full effect.
Yes, sir.
Is in full effect. You know, sometime I'm walking with my wife and I say, you ever see an end to this? You ever see an end to this? Because some of us have bought into it hook, line, and sinker. I was at work this weekend working. I call it the plantation. I was on the plantation doing what? Because it's not mine. It's somebody else's dream. It's not my dream. I would love to have it. However, they're not going to give me 700 million just like that because I feel that I'm going to have to do some work for it. However, the messenger said that 700 million and more is out in the street. It's in you. We have made their world. We are the ones that's keeping up all these workplaces everywhere you go. We are the ones.
Yes.
As much as it looks like they are in control, no, we are in control, but they're not telling us the power or the effect we have on these workplaces.
Yes.
You look around in the various places that you're working and say, okay, if these 15 black people or 20 black people don't come to work, what do you think will happen? What do you think will happen? Because I was at work the other day and I'm looking at it. I said, boy, we need an army. We need our own. However, would we accept that it's time to let this man go and do something for self? Because some of us are very afraid. We can't see ourselves doing anything outside what he has laid down. The dedication that some of us give these people, and I'm talking about myself, because I'm one, I don't like to phone in to work and say, oh, I'm sick or whatsoever, even though sometimes you know you could really do with a day off. I said, no, I don't do that. Why? Because when I get my business and I have anybody working for me and you say you're sick, I'm going to where I used to be in my mind. Is he really sick? Is he really sick or you're just taking the mickey? Because it's a black man business. For some of us, when we're working for one another, we don't put in the dedication. I don't know why, but some of us don't. Case in point, I was working for my brother one time, who was a painter and decorator. May Allah be pleased with him. And I remember when I started working with him, I got to work at 8 o'clock. And I'm phoning my brother. I said, brother, where are you? He's in his bed. He don't start work until 12 o'clock. I did that for about a month and I said, no, I can't do this. Because at 4 o'clock, it's time for me to break out and go and spend time with my family. However, he wasn't motivated to do his own business justice, and I was motivated to do it. I had to leave it. Because at the end of the month, when I want my money to look after my family, when my wife needs to go shopping, I can't tell her about, boy, things rough. The rent man don't hear things rough. And that's why we, as brothers, that's why the message is for mainly the brothers, because the sisters has got their work to do. However, we need to bring the brothers up to a point where we can then look at the sisters and say, I'm ready. I'm ready for a work that's fitting to put on a man's shoulder. We do not want no boys to be holding on to a work what a man's supposed to be doing. We are the ones supposed to be carrying the load and make it easier for the young men when they come. It's easier for them to then walk with something. But if we haven't prepared anything for them as men, you can't blame most of the young men that you see walking around on the street doing nothing. What have we prepared for them? What have we prepared for them as men? We don't have no young ones that we're teaching how to do anything. I remember when I was growing up in the Caribbean and school got 8 weeks vacation. As young boys, you couldn't be staying around in your parents' house ain't doing nothing. You better go and learn carpentry, mechanic. You gotta do something. You gotta go with the uncle. Don't care what the uncle was doing. If he have goat or sheep, God help you. You better pray that somebody has got something else, that you had to do something. And it was about, if anything happened, you've got something to fall back on. That's why we're calling for our men.
Come on.
Our young children, especially the boys, need to have something to fall back on. Praises are due to Allah. As you hear, my brother was speaking, we was at the carnival. And if you understand what carnival is all about, it was a time that the slave master gave us a time for us to make a fool of ourselves and such like, and to entertain him and the rest of it. However, when you watch our people today, we have taken foolishness to another level. As much as we were there, and you know, we understand, because I used to be in all that. I didn't know I was that crazy until when Allah gave me a mirror. I saw some things and the brothers have to say, brother, you got to hold it down. I was like, God almighty. Because I was there. However, it was like, wow, carnival is carnival. But when you saw what was going on, you said, man. And most of all, most of it was being recorded from the sister's point of view. Not necessarily the brother's point of view. The clothing that our women were wearing. And you said, wow, there's nothing. Yeah, brother? Yeah. The lack of clothes. And you said to yourself, if the nation is judged on the woman, when they see our women like this, what they're saying about us as men. And I'm like, wow. And even though some of the sisters came to us and, you know, they start covering themselves and say, you know, brothers, I'm not, you know, we say, you know, sister, it's all right. Because surely when you left your house, you know that you wasn't covered. So now that you see brothers in the suit and they're both like, why you think? So we just embrace our family because it's our family and hope that, you know, maybe next year you'll put on a little bit more clothes. But you was, well, for me, I was looking at it, I said, boy, I can't even say nothing too tough because I used to have on my tights and strap my things at the side and think that I was. And then, yes, sister, them cycle business, sister. And that's what I had on, and I didn't feel nowhere going to the carnival, behaving like some of them and a little bit more. And then I met a man, or I walked in a situation where this man was speaking, and he was speaking to black men. And he's saying, know yourself. And I said, what kind of, when you know yourself? Of course I know myself. My name is Floyd. I won't mention the other name because that's when I had amnesia. Now that I've got the name Muhammad, I ain't going back into the amnesia world. Praises are due to Allah. I met this man, and the minister was tearing into black men about our responsibilities. How we have our women walking around half naked, ain't doing this. Some of the sisters and them have to go out and work to look after the family because some of us refuse to look after our family. And I said, that is not for me. He's not speaking to me. And then he starts speaking about love. What is your understanding of love? And that he was speaking to me. And that was 27 years ago when I first heard this teaching. And I said, wow, I'm going to have to make a change. But you know what got me into the nation quick time in the hurry is the brothers. I came to my first FOI introduction class and I saw about 30 brothers all in suits and bow tie, and they took me into this room. I didn't want to be in no room. I didn't come to be sitting down in no room. I came to be among men who was doing something. However, that was the introduction class into going into that bigger class, because they had to prepare me for a responsibility that I don't know nothing about. They didn't say to me 27 years afterwards I'll be there still doing the same thing that I did more or less when I came in. trying to raise our people. I thought we'd have a big army with about 5,000 men. We're ready for come and tear down Babylon. No. No. Some people come, hear the word, stay around for a couple of years, and they're gone. Praise be to Allah, I am still here. By the grace of Allah. So now, brothers and sisters, it's now down on all of us. What are we going to do to help our nation? Male and female. We need everyone. Everyone is needed. You have got your part to play, just like how I've got my part to play. Don't say, oh, you know, Marcus Garvey, what you're building in Marcus Garvey name. What you're building in Malcolm X's name. Because if you're using their name and not doing the work, you are just lip professors. They weren't men who was just talking and ain't doing nothing. So we have to stop the talking. Let us put all these schools of thought to one side and say, what do we have in common? Blackness. All of us suffer one way or the other. Let us look at what the program for all these men are and say, what is it in common that all of us need to do? Do for self. Do for our nation. What part can I play in these programs, what they have got? Come on, men. I need you. You need me. The children need us. If we don't put it together, the children will be starting all over again 27 years later, coming to the rostrum, saying the same thing to another group of people. We can change. The change must be now. Don't worry about the suit and the bow tie. We will deal with that later on. Come, let us sit down as men and women and look at what we can do to build our nation. Other people understand what the Nation of Islam is doing. That's why they have a big separation. Anywhere the nation go, we cause controversy.
That's right.
And when we ask them, what is it that we're doing that is so bad? None of them can explain. But you don't want us to teach our people. Well, if you haven't taught them over the X amount of years, don't you think it's time enough for God to send somebody to teach us? Don't you think that the God that all of us say that is there, that did all these great things that we have read in the Bible and the Quran, don't you think that we need somebody to come and deliver us? Don't we think that we need a deliverer? We don't think that we need a Moses today. We need a real Moses, but the thing about it, he's here. And he has been calling for what, 42 years? The minister has been teaching? Come help me out. So, okay, family, okay. I'm just checking to make sure that you're here. 62 years the minister has been saying the same thing. I've been in the nation 27 years. We haven't changed what we are saying. Your nation needs you.
Yes, sir.
We don't have no AK-47 to give you. What we have is more destructive than AK-47. When we help you to get knowledge of yourself, because remember, when we are teaching you, we're teaching ourselves. Yeah, if steel sharpens steel, while I'm dropping something out in the steel, it's coming right back to me, because it would then make me have to go back to the books, and I'll be looking into this and I'll be looking into that. So certain things may be new to you, and even though it's considered, maybe I've heard that before, take off the dust, get yourself together, and you understand, wow, we haven't done nothing yet. There's a big field. The messenger said there's a big field awaits the wide awake man and woman to work out in. The thing is, where you see yourself in the field, which part of the field you see yourself working. Education, politics, science, construction, everything that a nation require, we need. And the thing about it, I know, each and every one of us in the room has got an aspect to put into that puzzle to close the puzzle off. See, it's not no big thing. The devil tried his best to keep us down, but he couldn't. So he had to let some of us in. And while he let us in, we have got all the resources that he has taught us over the years. Come on, let's go and put it together for self. We must love self enough to know now we need to build something for ourselves. Where's our building? Where's our town hall?
That's right.
Where is our executive boardroom when we need to sit down and think about what area we are going to take over under construction? Where's our school? Where's our hospitals? Where is our nursery? When you think about it, I was saying to someone as I look to close, brothers and sisters, if we as a nation of people were to think about, let's call a strike just to let these people understand who we are. Name some of the places that we were going to close down to cause a strike.
Trains.
Post office.
Services.
Bank.
Services.
NHS.
Okay. Okay. For me, I was like barbershop. But who would we affect with the barbershop? Is we. Okay. Let's go to the Asian people. Let's call a national strike. They closed down all the pharmacy, closed down nearly all the sub-post office, closed down all the corner shop. You see the effect what start happening? Because we'll be cursing the Asian and say, well, you know, open your shop because we need to buy one clippers, we need to buy this, we need to buy that for here. But if we were to call the same thing, what the effect is going to happen? Okay, the NHS, they will just go Europe and get their own people. They may not be as proficient as us, but they will still run it. What else after that? What to the schools? Would we be able to close their school, their financial institute?
That's why they open the EU.
See, and watch it. As much as they're cursing with one another, the EU. You know, we had something in the Caribbean named the Federation. That they know the modern day for it now is CARICOM. And still they're arguing with one another. They don't understand. And Minister Farrakhan has been in the whole of the Caribbean speaking to them about our unity. We need. But that's why we have to work, brother.
The Chinaman, I bring out food. Yeah.
But we allowed him.
Chinaman.
But we allowed him. See, when he came and sat down with our MP, the MP and them need to say, okay, yeah, you want to do so and so, where does leave my people? Where's the work? Because the agreement, what they made, the agreement say, yes, they can come and bring in 50% of the workforce from China. How can you do that in a place where unemployment is reaching the ceiling? But if we don't have the love and the knowledge, see, most of our leaders in the Caribbean, my brother, they are afraid. We will speak about it afterward, brother. They are afraid to speak truth to power. That's why most of them have to back up from Minister Farrakhan. You can't sell out your people. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. And the selling out has been going on from since we know ourselves, because I'm from the island of Antigua. And when this belongs to this, they live in America. This belongs to this belongs. What belongs to us? You can't even say go on some of the beaches that's supposed to be for the public. Right. They're not public beaches no more. So one way or the other, somebody's selling us out. And we're going to have to stop. That's why, message to the black man. Now remember, most of these things that are happening is not from the woman's point of view, it's from the man's point of view. Minister Farrakhan made it clear when he was speaking on Madison Square Garden. The reason why the world is in the position that it's in, because the world disrespects women. We think that women don't have a part to play in raising the nation. She's got the biggest part to play in raising the nation. Everything that we have named children come through her. And if she's the first teacher, then you need to look after the teacher. If she's the closest thing to the God, praises are due to Allah. If she's the closest thing to God, why then abuse God? No, sir. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us in the nation, brother. There is no such thing as a no good woman. She was made so by a no good man. And that is something that I have to look at as a man. We went and took her from her mother's home. We went and whispered into her ears. We as men introduce that woman. We introduce her into, why come with me now? Your mom Naga said this, your dad Naga said that. We took her from her home. She never just come and say, boy, let me come with you. No, we're the ones say, boy, baby, you look good, you know, boy, I would like to talk to you. And then she take a little liking to the words that we use, and she came sincerely because she never understand what love means, and we were using it as to get to her heart. And when we got to her heart, and I was one of them, we betrayed her. The betrayal starts when you start hanging out with her sister and her cousin and the rest of it. So there is no such thing as a no good woman. You go and listen to every story from a woman. There is a man involved in it. Whether it's uncle, father, brother, there is a man involved in it. So we as men have a big role to play in all this. That's why when the minister called for 1 million men, it was for us to say sorry and apologize to the world. It wasn't about the woman, because they was right there beside us. Even said when the white man broke us, some of them still hold us and say, you know what, I understand. And then when we pick ourselves up, we forget that woman and pick up another woman. So the message is clear. The message is clear by the grace of Allah. The message is to the black man. Yes. When we get ourselves together as men, our woman will come running back. Yes. We was at the carnival, and Brother Leo, as I'm going to bring him up, there was a young sister, and she was asking what this was about. Right. And we were saying to her, you know, sister, we want 1,000 fearless black men to come and police our community, to police against the police against the drugs and the crime and the violence. Come on. And we are going to be making some black men. You know, she said, brother, you're not working fast enough. We need black men. Because everything that them is seeing now today in the world is from a white perspective. That's right. I love Serena. And brother, when I heard Serena went across the border, I said, oh Allah. However, she's not the first. And if we don't get ourselves together as men, she will never be the last. And that's why we got to stop. We got to make ourselves attractive enough that the woman, well, no, let me say it like how the messenger said. An FOI. FOI. Yes. We are supposed to be the desires of all women. That's right. Children supposed to say, that man's supposed to be my father. Yes. Man's supposed to be my uncle. Mm-hmm. However, if we're not doing the work, what are they left to see? Mm-hmm. They will see Bob and Billy and the rest of it, because them look like they're doing something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's time for me and you now, brothers and sisters, but mainly the brothers. I'm speaking to you because you're an attraction for this side. As the minister would say to the sisters one time, sisters, you keep your head straight because the black man is in bad shape. But I know some of you sisters will, even though we're in bad shape, you will come and put a cloth around our head and say that come let me help you. And that's what we are going to be doing. So as I leave you, my brothers and sisters, I leave you in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to bring before you a beautiful brother. Most of us know him from the Real McCoy. Some of us know him from edutainment. However, we know him as a brother. We remove all those other bits, and a brother, a hard-working brother in our community. And as he's striving, we are striving. We have one teacher, and the one teacher is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I present to you your brother, my brother, Brother Leo Muhammad.
Thank you, family. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the one God to whom praises are due forever. Whether we say Allah, whether we say Jah, Jehovah, Yahweh, beloved brothers and sisters, there are many, many beautiful names that we use to describe the Creator of the heavens and the earth. We can never thank Allah enough for His intervention in our affairs, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praises are due forever. And we thank him continuously, beloved brothers and sisters, for searching among black people in specifics in North America and finding one, a black man who really was of no regard in this world, but was of great regard in the heart and the mind of God. I speak of none other than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We thank Allah continuously for raising up that black man for the totality of black people. And I was alive, but I was never blessed when I was growing up as a small boy to meet or to see in person the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And as we occupy this room in 2017, all of us can bear witness that we wouldn't know anything about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad if it wasn't for a particular human being.
That's right.
I thank Allah continuously for this beautiful man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Because it's one thing to tell a story about history. It's one thing to recall our greats, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, Noble Jew Ali, Paul Robeson, Dessalines, Toussaint Louverture. It's nice, you know, we can conjure up the names and bring them back to life in that way. But as I stand here before you today, I can honestly put my hand on my heart and tell you that I'm in love with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. How could that happen? It could happen because we have among us today on planet Earth, living right now, a man whose love is so profound that he could transfer love of another human being to me and to us, to bring us into an appreciation of this man, Elijah Muhammad, that we could never have had this man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, not being made so selfless by Allah, so selfless by God, that he could convey that love of this man to us. Not only does he convey that love of this man, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to us, but in truth, you know, I've met black people who have said some terrible things about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan over the years. I've met people and I've spoken to them and I've heard stuff come out of their mouth. And I could look at that person who is saying that real horrible filth about this man, and I can look at them in their face and I can tell them, as you speak about this man, I can tell you as a fact that even though that man don't know you, he loves you more than you hate yourself. That's how sure I am about the love that the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan exhibits. And so, beloved brothers and sisters, those three wonderful human beings are the foundation on which we stand in this room today. And I will never go in front of any group of people and fail to make sure that they know the foundation on which I'm standing. And that without that foundation, I wouldn't have nothing to say. Because I know me, and I know where I'm coming from. And I know that before these teachings, man, I was on a rocket ship going to a horrible place. And oftentimes, me and my wife will sit down at home and we look at each other, because there's a thing, we have this, you know, I don't know, I can't speak for any other couple, I can speak for us. There are things that we say all the time and we smile or we laugh about it. And we might be watching something on the TV and we'll say, only in America. And we both know what we mean, because it's just some foolishness that you will see in some movies and we say, only in America. But we have another saying that we always say to one another. We'll look at each other and we'll say, thank God that Allah came. Because if it wasn't for the fact that Allah came, where the hell would we be today? And so, as an introduction, I want to greet all of you in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the ancient tongue of Arabic. Assalamu alaikum. Beloved brothers and sisters, this is our subject, as Brother Alvin and Brother Floyd Muhammad have already indicated. We may stay on this for the next 3 to 4 weeks, inshallah, because it's that important. Why? Because we have to go back to the foundation. You know, we have 9 numbers that we count as, you know, the numerical system that we use in this current life that we live. We go 1 to 9, and then we go back to 0, if we understand the way the numerical values work. Of course, we know there's 10, 11, whatever, but you will notice if you examine it, you're going back to 0. And sometimes, when we claim adulthood, we go through puberty and we get to that point where we now believe that we're an adult. Always remember this. In the word adult, the root of it is where you get adultery from. Because often we get to that adult stage and we start making statements like, well, I'm an adult, I can do what I want. We leave the realm of innocence and childhood and obedience, and we're now adult. And we become adulterous. And we become a people who don't really have loyalty anymore to anything, because we're adults. Well, beloved, I've got to say it to you like this. You know, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, lest ye become like a child, you cannot enter into the kingdom of God. See, there's something about a child, beloved, which is innocent. And I don't care how old we are. Doesn't matter what we did yesterday. Doesn't matter what kind of offenses we committed against one another or against God. Because some of us have offended God himself. We can't overcome these issues and problems in our lives unless we return to that place of innocence. Unless we become humble again and determine that we want to learn again. We want to renew ourselves. And we have to always revisit our foundation. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan conducted a lecture, and the title of it was, "How Strong is the Foundation? Can we survive?" Because once we start coming from the branches of the tree and negate the foundation, the trunk of the tree, which is where all of the strength is, we become weak. Branches will always fall off. They can break off. But the foundation, the trunk, that's where the real energy and power of the tree is. And we have to become sufficiently wise enough to understand that the foundation is something that we should never ever move too far away from. And by going back doesn't take away from us. It actually adds to us. Some of us think that by going back to zero, going back to one, going back to the thing that I did before, somehow that's taken away. It's not taken away, beloved. It's adding to, if we understand. And so, beloved, this subject matter, can I just ask a question, please? How many of us have this book at home? Be honest. Those who've got it, raise your hands high. All those who haven't got a copy, could I just see your hands if you haven't got a copy of Message to the Black Man? Okay. Just our two sisters. Well, inshallah, God willing, I know we're working at the moment on getting some books over from the States, and this is obviously top priority. We want to get more of them because we need to have this. If you go back and you look, you'll see images of Muhammad Ali holding up this book.
That's right.
You'll see images of Malcolm X holding up this book. I always smile to myself when I hear people today claiming people like Malcolm X. You know, Malcolm this and Malcolm that and whatever. And they think that Malcolm just came out of a vacuum. No, Malcolm didn't come out of no vacuum. What made Malcolm the man he became for the 12 years that he served the nation of Islam and served black people and was a follower of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is Message to the Black Man. Message to the Black Man. And people want to claim Malcolm. And those same people, I'm telling you, if they ever was around in the days of Malcolm, they would have been running a mile. Just like the same ones, because they're the same ones today who'll be running a mile from Minister Farrakhan. You see, but if the minister should pass away, a few years' time, you'll see them saying, "Oh yeah, Farrakhan." Farrakhan. It's like when we've been out on the street sometimes selling the Final Call newspaper, and black people are coming along the road and they see us and they say, yeah man, Farrakhan, Farrakhan, with their head turned the other way. You know, because we've been made afraid as a people. And a lot of us, we get a sense that there's something powerful here. And oftentimes when we get a sense that there's something powerful, we don't think it's for us, and we run because we've been made afraid. All of that is in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in our supreme wisdom. But let me begin in this way, beloved brothers and sisters. What is the purpose of a book entitled Message to the Black Man? What's the purpose of it? I'm asking these questions because I want us to begin to ask ourselves questions. Did you know that one of the best ways that you can learn in life is to ask yourself questions? Did you know that every answer to every question that you need the answer is already in you. Did you know that? I'm just asking the question. The answer to the question is already in you. But if you never ask yourself the question, the chances are you may get the answer from an external source, from somebody else. Somebody else can provide an answer, but the best person you can ask is yourself. When you find yourself in any kind of trouble in life, and there's a perplexing question that's in your mind, like, how do I solve this? You got to get that money to pay that bill. Ask yourself the question. And ask yourself the question over and over again before you go to sleep. Just before you go to sleep. When the mind is in that almost sleep state, and the answer will come during your sleep. You will wake up in the morning and you will have an answer. There's science in it. There are so many questions, beloved. I'm going to speak personally. When I was growing up as a boy in Jamaica, and when I came to this country, I always had a lot of questions. Always, I'm one of these people. When I was growing up as a child, I'm always asking questions. I'm concerned about things, And they weren't always questions that were articulated as a question as such. But I can remember being a small boy in Jamaica, and a man died in the neighborhood where I lived. There's an Indian man. In those days, they call him on. An Indian man died. The Indian man's name was Tyreman. They called him Tyreman because he worked in a place where they changed car tires. Jamaicans. There was a man growing up in our neighborhood when we was a child, and he had a prosthetic nose. Yeah, something happened to his nose, and in those days, I'm talking about now in the 60s. Yeah, he had, they'd fashioned the nose for him. And what do you think they called him in the neighborhood? They called him board nose. Board nose. I don't know if it was made of wood. I don't know. It may well have been, but they called him on board nose. But when Tyreman died, a rumor went around that people said they heard him doppy. They hear the doppy at night time. I pull a big chain because he had a big chain but I'm 6. I'm 6 years old, beloved, and I'm scared. I'm thinking about Tyreman. I pull a chain. There was this brother. The first time in my life I heard the term Black Sambo, it was a brother who lived down the lane from where we lived, and everybody called him Black Sambo. The black people, we're all black people, but the man, they call him Black Sambo. He was a very, very black man. In Jamaica, there's certain parts of Africa you can go to, people are blue black. We got people like that in Jamaica. There's some black people in them blue black. Yeah, maybe if you go back and trace the ancestry, we're coming out of that area of Africa, blue black. Them call him Black Sambo. But then the brother, I don't know what happened, but the rumor went around that he chopped up his whole family with a machete, and then he went on the run in the hills. And for a brief time they told us that we couldn't go outside, the children couldn't go outside because this man was on the loose. I'm scared, man. I'm 6, I'm 7 years old, I'm scared. I'm hearing all these stories. I'm just trying to give you a picture of me as a 6, 7-year-old in Jamaica hearing these things, and I'm questioning. This whole doppy business was in my head. It was really in my head. And then one day, me and my little brother, he was 2 years younger than me and him were walking, and something fell out of the ackee tree. It wasn't an ackee, but something fell out of the ackee tree, licked him in his head. And so now we're both of us now worried about doppy. there was a local bush area where we lived, and the locals, it was called Turner Bush. It was named after a man called Turner, and again, Jamaicans are very straightforward. Yeah, Turner Bush. It's Fiend Bush. Down in Turner Bush, they used to play cricket. So me and my little brother went one day to watch the bigger boys playing cricket. They're playing the cricket. We're sitting over like on some rocks, and somebody cracked the ball, and it came and it hit my little brother. So we said, oh. So we moved and we went to another part. Game went on, people playing, and cracked the ball again, come hit my brother again. So we said, no, man. So this time now, one of the adults, they said, what more? You know, they were angry at us, like we're the ones. My brother's been hit twice by the ball. So now the adults vex, say, wanna move on yourself. Yeah, like it's our fault. So we moved all the way to a different spot. It was a weird kind of place. We kind of went, and as God is my witness, about 10 minutes later, crack, and the ball came right near my brother again. I'm questioning. As I'm growing up, because it's like these things are like supernatural kind of things. There's a lot of questions in my mind about life. What is life about? One day, I was on my way to school, and they gave us a satchel. Yeah, school satchel. It's the bag. Yeah, I'm struggling to say that word. But I had all my books, my papers in there, whatever. And we used to have to walk a long way to school. But I'm on my way to school, and again I'm crossing that area called Turner Bush. And a little, now what do you call these things? It's like a whirlwind. Like a tornado, like a small one. The thing's coming, and it came to me, took my satchel up in the air, everything gone. I'm struck this howling wind kind of, just a little thing like that, and then it gone with my bag and everything. I'm a Jamaican child, 6, 7 years old. Now I've got to go and tell my uncle and my auntie that a wind took my bag and the satchel. Now look, man, I'm telling you, it's one thing you can't tell an adult that in Jamaica. You can't. So what happened? I got a terrible beating, brother. But it's true, it happened. So these are the kind of questions I'm asking myself. What is it about? What is life about? Now, I want you to think about yourselves. Because every single one of you, as you've been growing up in this world, how many questions have you been asking? How many things have you questioned? Have you said, you know what? What is this? What does that mean? Those of us who have had relationships that have not worked out. How many times have you questioned yourself and asked, well, was it something to do with me? Why did that happen? Why does these arguments come up? Why is that person over there seeming to do so well? They seem to have everything and I don't have nothing. These are questions that human beings ask every day. Black people, do you know that black people ask the question, God, why did you allow us to go through slavery? That's a legitimate question. And these are the types of questions that are in the minds of black people. Did we do something wrong? What did we do as a people to suffer like this? If Brother Floyd is saying that he's gone to the Caribbean and he can see white people in the Caribbean running things, it's bad enough being here and we see them running everything here and the racism that we go through here, but I can bear witness like him. I've been there myself and seen it for myself. Why, God? Why? I've been to Africa and I'm seeing white people running things. Why? Why are black people in this condition? Now you've got to be careful when you start asking them kind of questions, because when you ask those kind of questions, you have to look at where the answer may come from. Because there are people who have tried to provide answers to these questions. Let me give you some of the answers. As Caucasian people, they teach that they came and found us in Africa with bones through our noses, swinging through the trees. Savage people who have contributed nothing to history. Isn't that what we were taught?
Yes, sir.
Have you heard that?
Yes, sir.
When I was growing up in Jamaica, I never knew nothing about racism. I never heard of it. I never knew about it. My uncle was the third secretary in the Prime Minister's office. Every day I see my uncle, he used to drive a different car. He had these big, and in those days, you know, the fishtail, American fishtail, we call it. Some elaborate tails on the cars. That's what my uncle was driving every day, a different car. When I was growing up, I had maids to change my clothes and do all the stuff for us as children in the house. I never knew nothing about no inferiority, and I wasn't growing up with that thing in my mind that I'm inferior to anybody. It was only when I came here and I heard nigger mind, go black home, you be all white in the morning. And I didn't even understand it. Coon flakes, yeah. I'm putting my hand up in the class in the school, the first school I went to try and answer the question, and the teacher's just ignoring me. And then all these white children are giggling. I'm thinking, what am I giggle for? What am I laugh for? Because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand that these people saw me as an inferior. When I eventually discovered what it all meant, because a black boy came and told me what was going on. He was in this country longer than me, and when he explained it to me, I was vexed. I was angry. Within a week of going to school, I had a fight with a white boy, and I used a brick on him because I never knew nothing about being scared of them either. So, and I was in trouble with the school, in school, and my mum had to come to the school, and they're telling her, you know, like they're looking at me like I'm some kind of savage, because they never heard of a black boy bricking a white boy. But I'm licking him in his head with the brick. Because I don't know what this is all about. This thing where I'm supposed to now, I don't know, feel like I'm an inferior. So I'm asking questions, I'm questioning, I don't know what's going on in my life. I was struggling to see myself in the picture. In those days when we watched television, I remember my sister used to run home to watch Tom Jones on the television. Tom Jones, the white man from Wales. But guess what? No, but guess what? Because he seemed like he had some black in him. He was the closest thing to a black person, so we would get excited. My sister was excited. I wasn't. Truth regardless, right? The Jackson 5. Oh my God. We lost our minds. Muhammad Ali. I mean, the cartoon Jackson 5. Woo! That was heaven, brother. That was heaven. Heaven. There was nothing for us to see ourselves reflected back. There was no point that you could say, yeah, where you feel proud. And so within a short time, I can remember looking in the mirror, and as God is my witness, saying, God, why did you make me ugly? They had got me. They had made me start to feel that there was something inherently wrong with me. I said, man. I went through, they put me in children's homes. I went into a children's home because my mother and father broke up. Children's homes that were white. Only black. I went to school, there was 1,500 pupils, the only black one. This is in the 70s.
I don't want to call it chalky.
Chalky, everything. Everything but your name. All right, Chalky. I went to an approved school, which is a school for bad boys. I haven't got time to go into all of the ins and outs of why. I'm just trying to give you some images before I go into this. And when I went there was a white boy who was, they called him the cock of the school. He was supposed to be the best fighter. This is the terminology that was used. And he would see me, and every day that he would see me he would just box me in my face. I was 11 around that time. And he had his crew, his posse. And those are the days of the original skinheads. And Ben Sherman shirts, Stay Press, Arringtons, Dr. Martens. And he was the only one who had a pair of Dr. Martens in the whole place. And he would bully me at every opportunity he got. Look, man, I was questioning, asking questions all the time. What is this all about? Let me tell you something, beloved. I experimented in my life with a lot of different things. I tried Rastafarianism. I had dreadlocks at a certain point down past my shoulders. I tried, I got big time into martial arts. So I went into what they call Zen Buddhism. You know, trying to reason and philosophize around those kind of things. And I'm not getting no answers to my questions. I became like a political activist, a black activist on the street. So every demonstration to do with black rights, so apartheid, anti-apartheid, I was there. And by the way, when I used to be on those anti-apartheid demonstrations, demonstrating against South Africa, there were no black people there. Most of the demonstrators were white. Again, I felt like a minority in those crowds because it'd be all white people demonstrating against racism against black people in South Africa. Very few blacks. Myself and a brother called Spartacus R, who's passed on now, may Allah be pleased with him, we used to go into the supermarkets and take all the South African goods and pile them up into shopping carts, full, and then get to the checkout, check them all through, get to the last item. Oh my God, all these are from South Africa. Can't possibly pay. Mess up them till. That was our demonstration. We got arrested for it. They took us to court and they charged us with threatening behavior because we held our fists up when we was demonstrating. And we were able to prove in court that the clenched fist held up was not threatening behavior, but it was in fact a solidarity symbol, and we were acquitted, which was quite nice. Yeah. Questions, no answers. The first time in my life, Brother Floyd mentioned a figure of 27 years ago. For me, it was around 1986, 87 when I first heard the teachings, but I didn't get gripped at that time. I was still clubbing. I was still in the nightclubs and whatever. Up to 1988, I was still clubbing. 89, just kind of coming out now. I'm going into training to be an actor. 89. And then I heard the teachings again. And then this time I was gripped. And then I joined the study group. And at the same time I'm acting. And I'm coming into that field. And I'm coming into the nation at the same time. Around just at the beginning of the 90s. And that was the beginning. And that was the first time in my life that I heard something that began to answer questions. The questions that I had. Up to that point, nothing answered my questions. This was the first time in my life that my life began to make sense. Up to that point, everything else to me was like guesswork and conjecture. And I've still got these things somewhere, but I can show you a video of me on Kilroy Silk. Anybody remember Kilroy Silk? Yes, that chat show? Arguing with white people. Now you got some Jewish people on the show who are arguing that the races should be separate. And these Jews, they're saying blackbirds don't mix with redbirds. And they're putting some arguments. I'm on the same show arguing, no, everybody is the same. We should all be together. Trying to show you. And I was sincere, and I believed, that's what I used to believe. I used to believe that everybody was the same. See? But that shows you the level of confusion and the ignorance, brother. And we can be sincere, but we can be sincerely wrong. We can be sincerely ignorant. And so, when I heard this, when I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaching the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that was the awakening for me. And that's why I'm saying, beloved family, that it's so important to revisit this. And I want us to, get away from the excitement of, the biggest meeting we ever had when we was in West London. The most well-attended meeting that we had was the week after we were attacked by some hooligans who decided that they wanted to come and stab us up and beat us with baseball bats because they wanted to put an end to us reciting the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the week after that, the meeting was packed. It was ridiculous. Black people couldn't get in. Why? Because black people love excitement. Those of us who have ever been involved in a courtship with a woman, and not even formal courtship in truth, but when you first meet that man or you first meet that woman, it's like you can't get enough of each other talking on the telephone. Can I get a witness? Anybody?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you could be on that phone for hours talking pure foolishness. 6 hours, 7 hours. Just to look, you got to find, you got to get ways to keep from the battery from go dead. But you just be talking, you're not saying anything. You be doing stuff in the house, but you got that person in your ear because it's exciting, it's wonderful. But you see, it's so sad that then we get into the proper relationship, whether it's a marriage or a long-term proper relationship, and all of a sudden we can't stand one another. Because why? Why? Because now we got to deal with the everyday mediocrity of life, which is not exciting necessarily. It can be quite boring, but that's life. You know that thing where Brother Clint is he's a hard taskmaster when it comes to the gym. But if you're going to be healthy, if you're going to be fit, you got to train. But you can't train once. It's got to be continuous. And most people, we can do something once or twice, but now to keep it going, consistently doing it, then I can't be bothered with that. And that's the nature, brothers and sisters, of these teachings. I like what Brother Floyd was saying, because, he was talking about, basically he said, after 20 odd years, I'm still here. Mm-hmm. That's the key. That's what the scripture means when it says, the race is not to the swift, nor to the strong, but for those who can endure to the end. Did you know that black people are not endurance people? We are by nature. But by circumstance, we're no longer a people who understand that endurance is our forte. We're now into the quick fix. We like a sprint, but we can't, or we don't believe now that we can endure. We got to get back into the right mentality.
That's right.
We got to be in this for the long haul. This ain't no short-term fix. There is no abracadabra. There's no magic formula. The magic formula is we got to immerse ourselves in that which was specifically designed for us, in order to reacquaint ourselves with our very nature. Okay, beloved. Many questions. Brother Alvin, when he was speaking, he talked about sacrifice. And I want to ask another couple of questions. Did you understand, or do you understand, that we are actually, and that we were actually made sacrificial lambs? Do we understand that term? I can break it down a little bit. Do you understand that black people in 2017, you know, like all the black people out there now who have got these questions in their minds and they're not sure about this and they're not sure about that, and they don't understand why we continue to suffer in the manner in which we do. We're in Charlottesville and you know, people are coming out, KKK people are coming out, and racists are coming out, and they're against black people, and you got Trump in the White House, and Trump is a racist, and you got Brexit, and Brexit threatens black life, and you got people now saying Black Lives Matter because black people are getting shot down by police like it's going out of fashion in America. All of these people have got all of these questions. But did you know that we were actually made sacrificial lambs? Which is how you got to understand and answer the question, why? Why are these things happening? Do you appreciate that we were made sacrificial lambs by the creator of the heavens and the earth in order to perfect black people?
Come on.
See, because if we don't get it, then we can't do it. We can't go through it. Okay, let me put it to you this way. The Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan has called for 10,000 fearless. In one of the minister's breakdowns and reasoning about the 10,000 fearless, I'm paraphrasing, he talks about it like this. Are we willing? Hear the question, beloved family. Are we willing to sacrifice 10,000 for 50 million?
Come on.
Does that sacrifice sound too much to you? 10,000 for 50 million. If 10,000 of us could die tomorrow to free 50 million of us, is that a worthwhile sacrifice?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Or are you just saying that?
No, sir.
See, because that's the point. Are we going to be able to reason this thing out? Do we understand that black people going into 400 years of slavery? In fact, let's hold that. Let's park that for a second. Do we understand that black people going into what we used to call East Asia, now referred to as Africa, 50,000 years ago, to be made tough? Do we understand that by going into Africa 50,000 years ago to be made tough is the only reason why we could survive 400 years of slavery? You understand this? So on the one hand, we can look at Shabazz as a rebel, somebody who went outside of the circle of gods to make these tough people in Africa But had Shabazz not done it, we would not have been able to survive this onslaught. Do we appreciate that the black people 6,000 years ago, who exiled, who rounded up all that we could find of the new man, the new people, and exiled them into the hills and cave sides of Europe, do you realize or do you appreciate that we had nothing to do with that? We were in East Asia. That was our brothers and sisters who were left in the Holy Land who did that. They didn't even look like us. They still had the straight hair, the straight features, the angular features. They were still, but we had gone down into Africa to be made tough. We had nothing to do with what happened to the Caucasian. But do you appreciate that the Caucasian is now taking revenge on us? He's now taking revenge on us. Not only is he taking revenge on us, but he's taking revenge on the Middle East as well. Because he ain't holding back on nobody. But the point is this, beloved family. What are you prepared to sacrifice in order for black people to go free? You see, because the creator of the heavens and the earth, when he created the heavens and the earth, he knew that there was an imperfection in the universal order that he had created. That's why we're taught that nothing is a 100% circle.
That's right.
If you look at the shape of our heads, there's not one of us in here with a round head. It doesn't exist. The egg is not circular. It has an oblong shape. The universe is the same, but it is to be perfected. It's being perfected. In our nature, there is a wobble. In the nature of the universe, there is a wobble. In the black man, we know there are two germs. A brown one and a black one, by the way. Because, you know, we know that the Yaqub, he discovered the brown and the black germ, and then he fashioned the brown germ into what has become now known today as the Caucasian. Over a period of 600 years, he used the process called grafting or genetic engineering to bring about this new man. But did you know that that brown germ is still in us?
Yes, sir.
Still there. But the reason why he was brought out of us is so that we could see the brown germ in flesh, living, manifest. So that we will at last make a determination, having suffered under this brown germ, that we will reach that point of saturation, reach that point of oppression and wickedness where we will say, never again will we allow this thing to come up and rule. We have to kill it. But because we're so soft-hearted, let me break down soft-hearted to you. Do you know why so many black people are hoarders? It's to do with our soft-heartedness. You know that we don't like to get rid of nothing? Keep it. Never use it. But do you know what it means to be ruthless? Have you read somewhere where it says if your right hand offends you? How many of us going to do it though? We ain't cutting it off, beloved. We'd sooner cut off our mum or our dad, or our brother or our sister. But we have to learn, beloved, that this process that I'm trying to really get us to appreciate is so much bigger than how we view it. Our 400 years of suffering is all wrapped up in the original idea and concept of the original God. We got to contextualize these things. We've got to understand that it's bigger than some incidental that started in 1555. It's bigger than that. And it goes beyond 1555 right into 2017 and beyond. And we are players in a play, in a scheme. That's why the book is called Scripture, because it's scripted, and all of us can play different roles in the unfolding drama. We actually can choose what role we desire to play. In the drama, we can be victims if we want. We can be heroes if we want. We can be good if we want, or we can be evil if we want. And it really matters. It doesn't matter at all to the Creator, because you can't change his plan, which is inevitably to be perfection. All of this drama that we're currently involved in is leading towards a perfected state, a perfected human being. Master Farad Muhammad being the prototype of that perfected human being. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad being a prototype of that perfected being. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan being a prototype of those perfected human beings. What do they all have in common? Master Farad Muhammad's father traveled the globe looking for books.
Knowledge.
Just to find a word here and a word there in these books to give to his son to study. What are we called when we enter the nation of Islam? Students. Student enrollment. If we are not studying these books, and by the way, I heard the Honorable Louis Farrakhan say this, and I'm going to repeat it here today to all of us, because again, I know there's not one of you in here with a Holy Quran at home who now would put your Quran on the floor, right? Is that true? Because you understand that it's a holy book, and we put it on the highest shelf. You don't put the Quran on the floor. You don't take it in the toilet and stuff like that. You show a deference and a respect to that book, because it's a divine revealed word of God. This book is exactly the same.
Yes, sir.
I want you to hear me.
Yes, sir.
This is scripture.
That's right.
But again, because we have never been taught the divinity of black people and our relationship to God and how much God loves us and why we are today a chosen people, we think Message to the Black Man is just another book. It's not just another book, beloved. This is a divine message, and we have to treat it as such. And if we had the right attitude towards this, because by the way, you know, you may think when you read in your Quran, man, that's like that book. It's like, yeah, that, you know, which it is. It's a profound and powerful book. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was given 104 books to study. He said the best of them was the Holy Quran. But that was before he wrote this. Have you looked at the references in this?
Yes, sir.
Have you seen all the references to the Holy Quran and the Bible in this? Because it breaks them down.
That's right. Understand.
This explains to you how to read the Holy Quran. If you haven't read this, then you can go into the Holy Quran, but you may end up being like so many of these so-called Muslims today who are confused, who don't know know its proper interpretation, who don't know how to understand the book and how to apply the book and make the book spooky. So, beloved, as I get ready to close out today, we were sacrificed, not by a wicked God. See, because again, how do you understand sacrifice? You know, we hear about Abraham and his son, Ishmael, and the fact that he was so obedient unto God that he was willing to sacrifice his son. And at the point where he was about to thrust the dagger into his son's chest, you know, the son said, go ahead. The son was willing. And then God stayed his hand and said, no, you don't have to do that, because he proved that he was such a believer and that he understood that even if it meant his son, he was sufficiently obedient to God, that he knew that God wouldn't put on him something that was evil, even though on the surface it may look evil.
Isaac.
Do we understand that when you have an army, when you have soldiers, there is an expectation that the soldiers are risking their lives and that they may lose their life? That's the purpose of a soldier. When you have first responders, you know what a first responder is in emergencies, ambulance and firemen and police and whatever. Why are they paid, and why is it that the society pays a lot of respect to them? Why? Because they're expected, when the problem is over there and everybody is running in this direction, they're expected to run towards the problem. And if you're going to run towards the problem, it don't mean that you're necessarily expected to survive. And I think it was Brother Floyd, when he was at the front, said that every nation on earth has its army. We can't be any different. We have to have a set of people who are sufficiently courageous and fearless, who will be willing to give it all in order that the masses of the people might be free. There's a reason why in Arlington Cemetery in Washington, D.C., they have the 59,000 names of all of the soldiers who died in Vietnam. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why every year they go to the cenotaph and they lay a wreath to the unknown soldier. Because many of those soldiers died and they didn't know their names, or they were so mutilated or destroyed that they wouldn't be able to identify that particular individual. So there's a tribute paid to the unknown. Soldiers, warriors. If you study history, you see that soldiers and warriors throughout history, they're seen as, you know, integral to the nation. There's a reason why the sisters in the Nation of Islam of a certain age are called the vanguard. Because the vanguard is that which goes ahead. There's a reason why, as human beings, we're given leaders. Why a leader? Why a leader? Because they've got to go in the front. See, these leaders who want to lead from behind. No, beloved.
The politician.
The politicians. They send everybody else to war while they relaxing with their smoking jackets and cigars. No, beloved. If you're a real leader, you lead from the front. That's what leadership is. And your head has got to be sufficiently tough and hard to take what comes with leadership. And you take that off of the believers. So, beloved, as I conclude, I'm just trying to open up today because, believe me, if we get this, if we understand this, and we go back and revisit this and open it up again, there's another one as well. How many of you got the theology of time? Oh my God. You better go and open that book, beloved. This, theology of time, fall of America. See, all of these books, they must be studied.
Yes, sir.
The book is talking about you personally. It's a personal message to you. When it says message to the black man, obviously it means black woman, yeah, black people, but it's personal to you. Let me conclude. If you go to the book of Malachi in the Bible, chapter 4, verse 5, it says, "Behold, I will send you Elijah, the prophet, before the coming of the great and the dreadful day of the Lord." Study that, beloved. The Elijah that scripture is talking about is this man here. That's the man. That's the man. Oh, you thought it was back 2,000 years ago? No, beloved. Back 4,000 years ago? No, beloved. The Elijah was to come. And the Elijah has come in this day and in this time. All praise is due to Allah. Next week, inshallah, we'll go into what Elijah does when he comes. And we're going to plumb the depth of message to the black man. See, you've got to understand why you've got that symbol on the top there. You've got to understand why it says JFEI. You've got to understand why the flag is red. You've got to understand why he is emerging out of darkness. You've got to understand why he is wrapped in the message to the black man. You've got to understand why it says in America, and the relationship, the special relationship between America and Britain, that they are one and the same. Don't make a mistake thinking that, oh, this is just for the Yanks. No, beloved. England and America are one. When it talks about America, you're talking about England. You're talking about Britain. You got to understand why the Reader's Digest said, most powerful black man in America. How did a man who was a so-called drunk, uneducated, only went to the 4th grade of school, how does he become the most powerful black man in America? These are questions we need to ask and answer, man. Because that's deep. Why is he wearing a hat? Velvet. With over $160,000 worth of jewelry in it in the 60s. Do the maths. Work out how much it will be worth today. Why? See, what does it represent to have your head encased in jewels?
Universe.
So, beloved family, sometimes we have to just settle down and don't just it's not all about excitement. Sometimes, you know, I told people keep ringing me up, they want me to come and do shows, edutainment shows. I'm not doing it no more. I'm not doing it no more. I'm not making people laugh no more. I told them my focus is now giving the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's my focus. I am suffering because of it. But that's part of my sacrifice. Because I understand the importance of this. Praise be to Allah. So, thank you, beloved family. All of you who are going to be speaking over the next several weeks, get your head and study. And come from different angles, man. Come with it. And don't worry, there's nothing you're going to bring that's going to worry me. I'm just going to be so happy to hear, because I want to learn. But Allah is blessing us today to really plumb the depth of His revealed word. And if we keep on studying, beloved, Allah will really bless us. You notice when we speak from the front here, and then we hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that he's saying the thing that we're saying. That's not an accident. It's not an accident. It's not an accident. We may be 5,000 miles away from the man, but I want you to hear me well. We are right up in his heart and in his mind.
Yes.
Believe me, we are closer to that man than many who see him every day. Don't make the mistake of thinking that nearness means that you actually know the person. I heard the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said that my wife doesn't know me. Think about that. Think on that. He said my wife don't know me. So all of us who assume that because we're around the man, that we're in the know where the man is concerned, ain't necessarily so. Thank you. May Allah bless you.